The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello and welcome to the Happiness Jungle TV show. I am your guest host, Cammie Baker, and it is crazy out in the jungle, but we have a guest on today that's going to help us with our computer needs and with our kids and helping them be confident and helping to actually fire your computer guy. My guest today is Mark Beckley, and Mark Beckley is the author of Bye-Bye Computer Guy. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Mark, how you got into being in the industry of computer fixing and how it's all transformed for you to where we're actually going to fire you now.
Okay, so I started in traditional IT, corporate America, doing whatever was needed at larger corporations in America, and that was a great place to be. It was a great place to be through the 90s. Into 2000, it was not so much. And I went through a couple of cycles of getting laid off, getting another job for less pay and more hours, getting laid off, getting another job for less pay and more hours. And about the third time that happened, I said enough. So I had been consulting nights and weekends for years, and so I just started off on my own. And that was in 2001. So I've been, never looked back. I've been helping small businesses with their IT needs ever since.
So what was it that you knew it was computers that you wanted to do for your business? Like, how did you get started?
So one of the early jobs that I had in IT, I worked for a guy, and he worked with a lot of small businesses, and he was very much into contracts. He wanted the contracts, he wanted his regular income. And so I got to go out there and implement the contracts, and I hated it. The contracts put the customer in a really bad frame of mind. Their frame of mind is, okay, I've already paid for this, so I don't want to do things right. I don't want to buy quality parts. I actually want to create problems because I already paid for you to come in here. So, it was just a horrible dynamic. Not to mention the fact that, the owner, wanted to get more business and not really was less interested in the business that was already paid for. So it put him in the wrong frame of mind, it put the client in the wrong frame of mind, and that whole model of pay $100 a month for every computer that you have in the building for service, whether you need it or not, was just ridiculously inexpensive and unnecessary. There's much cheaper ways to do it. Those ways do involve some skill level and learning some basic concepts, and if you do that, your IT budget can go down dramatically. So.
Now, you work with small businesses, though, that don't necessarily need big contracts like that. Who's a perfect client for you? Give me an example.
Well, anywhere from, I have a lot of like a 3-person lawyer's office, a 3-person CPA office, all the way up to, 20 and 30 people. The 20 and 30 person company would hopefully have someone in the office who has some level of IT skills, and I target and train that person and back them up. So that they've got sort of a second layer of IT support. But anywhere in that range, what's not a good fit is a big company that's got a rack full of servers that needs 7x24 support and multiple people. And I have to sleep at night or I'm no good to any of my clients. So my phone gets turned off at 11 at night and gets turned on at 7 in the morning.
So what do you do for the average person that has 3 to 5 computers, people in their office? What's an average day for you?
It varies. It varies with those clients. Some of them, I guess we'll call them service sensitive, and others are price sensitive. And so the service sensitive client says to me, I want a computer over there next week, and I want it set up, and so they're not a hands-on person, and I go do it. Then there are other people who for whom I train the owner and we set up and we document everything, and it's kind of an 80-20 rule. If you have some computer skills and some interest and some time, you can learn how to do approximately 80% of your IT yourself. And I guess the important trick is knowing the difference of knowing when to do it yourself and when to get help.
Speaking of which, is you teach people how to work on their own computers.
I teach people how to build computers. It's not something that I typically recommend for a business owner, and this is where I love working with kids. You know, I always say, find me a 15-year-old boy who doesn't want to build a computer. And you might find one, but you'd have to look pretty hard. So what I've discovered, it's really not about finding a 15-year-old boy who wants to build a computer. It's about finding a 15-year-old boy who has parents who are willing to invest the money to really build a computer that's going to last. I call it an industrial workstation. It costs about $1,000. To have your son or daughter or grandfather or whatever come to my shop and build it themselves costs $1,000.
It's not the cost, it's the investment in the child.
Right,
So
right.
just for our viewers to know, not only does Mark help people by fixing their computers and doing their IT services, etc., he also helps people to learn how to fix their own computers, hence the name of his book, Bye Bye Computer Guy, so that we can fix our own computers. But what he's really passionate about is having kids come in and build their own computer with you. Let's talk about the results and the benefits of why it's good. It is a fabulous investment for a parent to actually invest in their child by having them build their own computer.
Yeah, you know, it's a remarkably pleasant experience, and it's remarkable how much fun it can be to teach kids something they want to learn. And you know, the kids are just generally, you know, some more than others. But the best story is a 7th grader who came to my shop, and you know, his mother said the usual stuff to me. You know, I don't know how he's going to do this. He can't sit still for 10 minutes. I've never seen him sit still for 10 minutes in his entire life, so I'm not sure how this is going to work. So she brought him over, and you know, she sat and watched. I think that she wanted to see how long he was actually going to sit still. And you know, an hour and a half later, you know, there had been some shuffling around or something as we were looking at components and stuff and talking, but he was still sitting in the same seat an hour and a half later, and she got up and said, "Well, I've got errands I've got to do today. Call me when this is done, and I'll give my son a ride home." And you know, we went on to build that computer, and delightful time working with this young man building the computer. He came in at 9 o'clock in the morning. At 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he got to take his computer that he built home. And I saw his mother in the grocery store several weeks later, and she stopped me and she said to me, I have to tell you, my son, he's a different person. He was, you know, he's the biggest slob that you've ever met. I don't think he's ever put anything away. And when he brought that computer home, he cleaned his desk. And I don't mean he went like this, which is what he would usually do, is just sweep everything on the floor. He went downstairs and he got Pledge and he got a rag and he cleaned the desk. And he put the computer on it and he set it all up. And a couple of days later, he had a friend over, and I heard him say to his friend, "Don't touch that machine, you're gonna get fingerprints on it." So, you know, there was a remarkable transformation here, and that transformation is around confidence. The confidence that it gave that kid that he built that machine himself. That was his machine. He built it from scratch. He knows now, having completed that build, how to take care of it, how to, you know, keep the antivirus and the drivers updated, and to, you know, add on to that machine down the road. So it was a tremendous confidence, tremendous ownership, you know, and you know, if you compare that to, had she taken him to Walmart, like a lot of the parents I talked to, and bought him a $359 computer, it would have been a different experience. I mean, he wouldn't have, there would have been no ownership. There wouldn't have been, you know, that level of investment and so forth. And the machine probably would have been in a landfill in 2 years. Mm-hmm. And then they would have started over again. So on what I call the disposable computing treadmill, you know, the price is $359, but you're probably not going to get out of there for $500. And 18 to 24 months later, you're in there buying another one. So right there, you've already made that $1,000 investment that you could have made and had your kid build the machine and have really a lifetime computer, because all those components can be replaced and upgraded. And
well, and there's so many kids that will build that computer with you and actually realize, wow, I can do this. Like, this is a great career path, or this is something that I would be interested in learning more about. And I know I've experienced spending some quality time with you. You're awesome with kids. You get them to really open up, and they just feel so comfortable around you. And I've seen you give quite a bit of business advice, and they tend to leave very inspired. Talk about that.
Well, I've been coaching for a while. I coached Little League, I coached football, I coached soccer for a little bit, I coached wrestling. And it's actually a funny story. My youngest son, I'd been kind of following around, coaching Little League and football and the middle school science team, and he got to the high school, and I went to talk to the high school science team, and he pulled me aside and said to me, "Dad, why don't you give it a rest?" So he wanted to be on his own. So I stayed coaching at the middle school science team. That is the Coolidge Middle School in Reading, Mass. They have been state champions 25 out of the last 26 years. I've been coaching there for 9 years, and I've been coaching state champions for 9 years. So I tend to give kids as much as they can soak up. And you can tell when their eyes glaze over, when they've had it, and when they're not following you, and you sort of watch for the details. And, I get into Ohm's Law, I get into all kinds of business sense, like kind of look at them, try to encourage them. Are they more on the mechanical side? Are they more on the civil side? Are they interested in engineering? Do they understand what engineering is? So yes, so that's a whole day when I get a kid who wants to learn, and, I get to just talk with them all day and give them as much as they can handle. It's tremendous fun. Still, like I said, teaching kids stuff they want to learn is a lot of fun.
Well, and besides that, you mentioned to me there was another child that you helped build a computer, and you ended up getting a job out of it.
Well, yeah, actually, it was a neighbor. It's a neighbor in Reading, Mass, where I live, and both of the two boys in this family came. They both built computers. And there's a fall fair at Reading, and so 3 or 4 years after the computer build, I called up the younger kid and said, I need some help in my booth. I was doing virtual reality in the booth, and it's a lot of work, a lot of hands-on. So he came and helped out in the booth, and it was perfect. He got there about 2:30, and the show went till 5, and my son and I were both quite beat by then, so he showed up and finished the show with us, and I went to pay him, and he's a smart kid. He refused payment and said, "I'd really rather have you fix my computer." So he brought his computer over, and while I was working on that, the next day I got a phone call from his mom. And, he's a sophomore in high school. He doesn't tell his parents anything, and if you're a parent, you know that. So his mom calls me and said, "Oh, yeah, your son's computer here." "Oh, well, he didn't tell me anything about that." So, and then she went on to asked me if I was interested in working in this new business where she's working, and so I'm scheduled to go in there next week. And so yes.
Giver's gain.
Giver's gain.
Giver's gain. So with you being so awesome with kids and being able to teach them things that you probably couldn't even teach me, because like you said, you find a kid and the kid will do it. You're taking that into a whole new level of passion. Tell us a little bit about Finding the Sharks.
Finding the Sharks. Okay. So Finding the Sharks is a Shark Tank event for kids. And as I was, coming out of my working with kids, I was doing some research, and, I happened to watch a couple episodes of Shark Tank, and I saw some kids on there. And as I did some research, I was amazed how many elementary and middle school kids are out there wanting to, get their business plan evaluated, and so on and so forth. And I looked around, in my hometown, and, there's 27 golf tournaments, and there's 0 Shark Tank events. So I thought we needed a Shark Tank event, so I'm trying to put that together. I'm working within the school system, but I've got sponsors, and we've got prizes, and it's affecting a shift. I've started to have meetings with some of the town planners, and I wanted to have one of the prizes be a permit for a lemonade stand at the compost area, and had to meet with the health inspector, and she was kind of grumbling and groaning about it. And I said to her, "Look, we need to encourage business. We need to encourage business in this town, and we need to encourage kids. And instead of having the police come and shutting down kids doing lemonade stands, we need to actively encourage kids to start businesses, because that's where economic growth comes from."
I'm all about helping to encourage those kids. We've talked about that one of the first place prize that they'll get will be being on the TV show with me.
Yes.
Because I want to showcase those young thought leaders and entrepreneurs. I was telling you that I was at an event in Phoenix, Arizona, and all the adults and the parents were all together learning and growing their businesses. And then on the second day, their children were able to bring their kids. So it was 20 to 25, 6 to 16-year-old kids in this room that were all like entrepreneurs and wanting to run businesses and creating their own product. And it's not just lemonade stands anymore. Like, kids are coming up with apps and all kinds of stuff. So I got up and I spoke in front of the group, and on my way out I feel this tap on my bum, and I turn around and this little girl's handing me her business card, and I actually interviewed her on my Facebook Live about a month ago because it's so inspirational. A little 9-year-old that has the vision and the mindset and is creating a product. Her thing is bath bombs. You throw the bomb in the bathtub and it fizzes and all that. But she learned how to make them. She learned how to find the material. I mean, her mother helped, but get the material, actually make it and package it, and a logo and business cards. I'm like, where was the help when I needed it when I was 8, 9 years old?
Right. So a lot of my clients, the company is Small Business Computing, so almost all the clients are business owners, which is really neat. Probably 95+% of them are business owners that, they're very engaged people. They know the top line, they know the bottom line, they're involved in everything in between, and they're really good people to work with. They're generally people that you can learn from. And what I've learned from talking and working with these people is that almost all of them have some familial connection to entrepreneurship. Either their parents were entrepreneurs, their brothers, their siblings, their aunts, their uncles, or they worked at a startup, but they all had some young, early exposure to entrepreneurship. And I just think that's really important. And if you think about, there's really kind of a Chinese wall with employees on one side and business owners on the other side, and very few people get over that wall in one way or the other. And if you think about it, so what kinds of conversations are the entrepreneurs having at home with their family at the dinner table? So I'm having trouble with this location, this product isn't working, I don't know what to do with this person, what do you guys think about this, what do you guys think about that? And then you think about, what are the employees' conversations are they having with their kids, and those conversations are generally, I hate my job, I hate my boss, the company's horrible, those are the kind of conversations that they're typically bringing home. So, and I'm sure there's some exceptions. There are some people who are out there saying, wow, I have a wonderful job and a wonderful boss, and I'm sure that does happen, but in general, that's not the conversation.
Well, and that's why we want to encourage any of the business owners that are watching us today to reach out to you or to me. I'll put them in contact with you, because finding the sharks is something that can be perpetual for year after year doing these events, because there are so many kids and all the business owners out there. If you're wanting to inspire little business people and get involved, we're looking for people to donate towards the prizes. So, for example, first, second, and third might be $250 in seed money for third place, $500 for second place seed money, and then first place $1,000 plus an appearance on my TV show. And any other people that have radio or any other media outlets that want to encourage these kids. So we just want to encourage and invite any business owners to reach out to us.
Right, we need judges, we need sponsors. We're starting off in the school system, and that's probably going to be a slow start, but I think it's the right start. And then eventually we'll probably be looking for space, outside of the school system. But for every 20 golf tournaments, you're lucky to find one Shark Tank event, and even fewer Shark Tank events for kids. So we're thinking about doing 2 or 3 groups, either elementary, middle, and high school, or possibly combining elementary and middle schools together. But it looks like at this point that we're going to have enough prizes for 3 groups, so we'll try to go with the 3 groups if we can.
Yeah. So where can we find the sharks? Where are you going to be looking? You said in the school, but for people that are watching, like, do you have kids? Do you have grandkids? Do you have a neighbor's kid? Like, who are they looking for?
Yeah, there's always a kid in the neighborhood who's got a lemonade stand going, who's got a paper route. He's got his brothers out there shoveling snow.
I was just going to say, they're the ones that are getting the other kids to do stuff.
Right. And Those are the kids we want. This is the first year, so we don't have all the answers yet, but we're working on it. And I know they're out there. You can find them. You can certainly find them on Facebook and on the internet and
all the YouTubers.
YouTubers, but we're looking for local kids who have some kind of who ideally have a business plan, and there's an opportunity if they present well to get $1,000 prize to pursue their dreams to start their business. And it's a really neat opportunity to let a kid pursue his dreams. It just doesn't happen enough, and I'm really excited about that.
Not just let them do it, but encourage them to do it
Yeah.
and inspire them. I remember I was in Yellowstone last summer, and there was a little girl with a table sitting outside of a restaurant, and the guy that I was with, we stopped, and she had stones that she was selling, little crystals. And she had small, medium, and large, $1 and $3 and $5. She had it all. She had a little cash register, little fake cash. She was like 7, but she was sitting outside it. And we asked her. She said it was her grandparents' restaurant, so she was sitting out there. And we asked her how much everything was. And long story short, we ended up giving her like a $50 bill and buying all the stones.
Wow.
Just to encourage her, what, this works, business works. Here's $50, we'll take all you got the night off.
And that touches on so many things that we've just talked about. First of all, the familial connection. I mean, her grandparents own the restaurant, so she's been exposed to that, and she sees it, so she's doing it. So she's out there imitating it, doing her own thing, came up with her own idea. She probably gathered all those stones up herself, and that's a great story. So.
Yeah.
And that's the thing we need to encourage more of. You hear stories on the internet about, kids having the police shutting down lemonade stands and, giving kids tickets for selling food without a permit or health, So we need to change that. We need to change that, and we need to get, we need to actively encourage young entrepreneurs to do their thing.
Now, you mentioned that most employees don't make the jump across the fence or vice versa, but you yourself were talking about how you had a corporate job, and then as things changed in the economy, you said, I'm just going to do my own thing. How did you make that leap?
Well, I had started, I worked in IT for probably about 5 years, and, I'm kind of unusual in IT in that I actually have a shred of interpersonal skills.
I've been going to say, not only are you analytical, but you're very gregarious and outgoing. Congratulations.
Well,
for
thank
that.
you. So because I'm kind of easy to get along with, and the clients who
Entertaining?
That might be a stretch, but I'd like to think that. So the clients who I worked with, who a lot of them enjoyed working with me, and a lot of them, asked me if do I want to do this, and I want to do that, and over time, I built up a small consulting business where I was consulting nights and weekends, and when the corporate jobs dried up and the economy got tough, it was kind of an easy jump to make. I had probably 3 or 4 months worth of work backlogged, and my wife was a nervous wreck, but it worked out. It worked out, and it's not an easy jump to make. But having the business already there, having a billing system, having parts and processes in place, it made the jump pretty easy.
Nice.
Compared to quitting your job,
right, and then
cold
figuring out what
turkey,
you want,
and then figuring out how to do the business. And I think the biggest hurdle is probably not having income for a year as you set up the business. Well, I didn't have that hurdle because it was already an ongoing business that I just had to ramp it up a little bit.
Let's talk a little bit about your book before we run out of time. So tell us the premise of the book and what we can expect when we read it. If you look at the corporate side of IT and you talk to marketers and people working with those folks, what you'll hear is the term create a dependency. That's how you market. You create a dependency, you get the customer to be dependent on you and dependent on your products and services. And I'm trying to do the opposite. I'm trying to cut people loose and cut people free, because a lot of those dependencies are really contrived, and they're hiding information, and they're doing all kinds of things that are not serving the client. They're more interested in creating an annuity for the IT firm than they are in actually serving the client's needs. Now, for larger corporations, there's a real need and there's a fit, and it works. But if you've got a 5-man company with 5 computers, no rack full of servers, never going to have a rack full of servers, and you'll hear things from the IT folks like, well, we're really not comfortable sending someone out to scan your hard drive for viruses at $175 an hour or whatever. And that's what the client needs. And
And then you think, well, send someone out and charge them less, but they really can't because they have an office and they have overhead and they have all these people hired and office space and they have this big nut to crack. So I've always been serving the underserved. And you can hire big name IT firm and you can pay them $250 an hour, but you're still not going to be a premier client because you don't have a rack full of servers and you're never going to have a rack full of servers. So how does that client get good service? And so there's two kind of ways. I mean, finding a really good IT person, if you're service sensitive and you don't want to do any of it yourself, then you're kind of dependent on finding the right IT person. And I think in that case, it's really important that you document everything. All the passwords, the processes, the printer setups, all that stuff needs to be documented so that you can hand that document to any competent IT person and they can come in and take care of your business. It's remarkable how few businesses that I go into have any kind of documentation whatsoever. And it just doesn't make sense to let an IT person walk out with everything that you've paid them to learn and leave nothing behind, and that's what the documentation does.
So the book is about firing
Yes,
that
the
person
book
and
is
doing it
about learning
yourself.
how to do this stuff and knowing what the 80% that you can and should do yourself and documenting that. And then, hiring the IT person for the 20%, for the network infrastructure, the rebuilds and all of that stuff.
So have you dummied it down so that we can understand how to fix our own computer?
I've tried to walk a line there. And I believe deeply that anyone who can run a business can do basic IT. The basic stuff, setting up printers, setting up mail, and all that kind of stuff. So no, yes and no. I think that dumbing it, I was advised to dumb it down to the 5th grade level, and I think that would be a disservice to my clients. So it's kind of more on a sophomore high school level. If you can run a business, you can operate a computer, and you can do basic IT, and the book tells you how.
So the book, a Bye-Bye, a Computer Guy, will help you to say goodbye-bye to your computer guy so that you can fix your own computer. And in the meantime, you also, just to wrap up our show, you have classes where you teach people how to fix computer. You have classes with kids to teach them how to build computers.
Right.
And you're stepping into doing some speaking and,
Yes.
and inspiring folks as well. So where can people find you? What's a website?
The website is smallbizcomputing.com. My email address is on there. And that's really all you need.
Smallbizcomputing.com. Well, Cami Baker here saying thank you for joining us on the Happiness Jungle today. It may be a jungle out there, but Mark can help you fix your computer. Thanks, everybody.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.